This is Matthew Kratter from Trade University, and today I want to answer the question, have ordinals and inscriptions ruined Bitcoin? You can think of these roughly as NFTs on Bitcoin, is sort of the layman's version of it. And you can see what they look like here. I'll link to this in the description notes below, ordinals.com. These are actually on the Bitcoin blockchain as we speak, and you can see what blocks they're in. And if you click more here, you will see more images. I've been getting this question a lot. Here's a comment from Fusion. Ordinals, inscriptions ruin Bitcoin. It can't be the future global money now. So let's talk a little bit about this. First, a reminder that one Bitcoin is made up of 100 million satoshis or sats. It's actually sats that are the native token to Bitcoin, and we aggregate them to talk about a single Bitcoin, but it's actually sats that exist on the blockchain and in the protocol. And ordinals are basically where you order, hence the name ordinals, you order and label each individual sat or satoshi. Inscriptions are where you attach a digital asset to each satoshi, like a JPEG or text, and this is one way of bringing quote-unquote NFTs to Bitcoin. So let's first discuss ordinals. This is a picture of what are called snowberries. They were all over the place in Eastern Washington when I used to visit my grandparents when I was a kid. And my brother and I used to give individual snowberries names. You can see that they're fairly fungible. They look the same. Obviously, some are bigger, some are smaller. They do not exist forever. They eventually rot, so they don't make very good money. But we used to give them individual names and then race them down the driveway at my grandparents' house when I was a kid. Now, the question is, were these names inherent or inscribed on the Bitcoin, on the snowberries themselves? No, they were not. Can you stop kids or adults from counting and labeling and giving names to things and ordering them? No, you cannot. You can't stop kids and adults from ordering and labeling satoshis either, as it turns out. And it's important to realize when it comes to ordinals, these labels are not inherent to the satoshis themselves, any more than the names of the snowberries that my brother and I gave to them were inherent to the snowberries themselves. These are labels and orderings that are externally projected onto each satoshi. These labels are not on the Bitcoin base layer. If you want to take a deeper look into this, a deeper dive, I'll link to this in the description notes below. Basically, this is from ordinals.com. Here's a summary of ordinal theory. Ordinals are a numbering scheme for satoshis that allows tracking and transferring individual sats. Satoshis are numbered in the order in which they're mined and transferred from transaction inputs to outputs, first in, first out. And if we scroll down here, we can see that this whole project consists of a BIP, a Bitcoin improvement proposal describing the ordinal scheme, an index that communicates with the Bitcoin core node to track the location of all satoshis. So again, this is an opt-in thing. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. A wallet that allows making ordinal aware transactions, a block explorer for interactive exploration of the blockchain, etc. So these are all things that are projected onto the blockchain. They don't exist on the blockchain itself. And if you wanted to, you could come up with your own system for ordering satoshis. This is just one version of it. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. So the conclusion here when it comes to ordinals, which is both the name of the project and a mathematical concept of ordering things, there's no way to stop people from coming up with ways to group or order satoshis. It's an open blockchain. You can see everything that's happening there, which is the whole point of the transparency, because we can audit it, we can make sure that there haven't been double spends, and we can make sure that there's no cheating involved. And this is the nice thing about an open blockchain, but open blockchains, of course, come with trade-offs. And one of the problems with it is everyone can see everything that's going on there. Now, of course, everything in Bitcoin is pseudonymous. They're not names and addresses and KYC information inscribed on the base layer, but you can infer these things based on people's interactions with the blockchain. But I think having an open blockchain is still the better way to go. Would you prefer to go back to Bank of America's non-transparent accounting that leads to all of this abuse and all of this deception and theft? Anyone is free to come up with their own external numbering scheme for satoshis, and no one can stop them. So the summary here when it comes to ordinals and ordering satoshis is you cannot ban or stop ordinals, especially because they are an external projection of an ordering scheme. Now, what about inscriptions? Inscriptions, as a reminder, you attach a digital asset like a JPEG or a text or really anything that a web server can serve up to an individual satoshi, and then you can send it across the Bitcoin base layer, across the network, and you can also send it across Lightning, I believe. An inscription is an asset, a digital asset that actually sits on the Bitcoin blockchain itself. So it's not like some Ethereum NFTs where it's just a link to an external cloud server that contains the actual file. I know Ethereum does have NFTs on chain as well that are part of the smart contracts, but these inscriptions are very special. They're on the Bitcoin blockchain itself. And so this leads to a lot of questions. Will inscriptions cause blockchain bloat? The answer to this, I think, is no, because each individual block is still capped at approximately 4 megabytes. So you cannot put an unlimited number of inscriptions in a block or on the blockchain. Block space is still very limited, and neither Ordinals or Taproot change that or increase the limit. You can fill up a block with traditional Bitcoin financial transactions by sending and receiving, or you can fill it up with inscription transactions, in other words, NFTs, on the blockchain, or you can fill up the block with a mixture of both. Now, if Bitcoin blocks, which of course come every 10 minutes on average, were not coming in completely full, i.e. up to 4 megabytes before the Ordinals were launched a couple weeks ago, and now these blocks are closer to full or are completely full, is it really accurate to say that Ordinals are causing blockchain bloat? I don't think so, because after SegWit, the SegWit upgrade in 2017, the Bitcoin community was fine, at least in theory, with 4 megabyte blocks every 10 minutes to eternity. So you can project this forward and assume an upper limit where all the blocks are full and the blockchain itself attains a certain size. And Ordinals have not changed that ultimate upper limit on the size of the blockchain. Bitcoin blocks, it is true, have not been full for the past couple of years because lots of people are using Lightning. They're sending Bitcoin between exchanges or keeping it on an exchange and otherwise avoiding doing base layer transactions. So I would suggest if you don't want blocks to fill up with non-financial transactions like inscriptions, you should really make an effort to start using the Bitcoin base layer more yourself. Get your friends and neighbors and relatives to use it as well. The Bitcoin transaction fee market is very competitive, and as a result, it's a free market. I believe that frivolous inscriptions are going to be pushed off as fees increase. They may be a large percentage of each blocks now because there's a certain novelty. This novelty will wear off, and when you're no longer paying just a few sats per V byte, people are not going to want to deal with high fees. You have to ask yourself, will monkey JPEGs be able to compete with large financial transactions of 10 million or 10 billion that want to settle on the base layer and are willing to pay up in order to do that? Absolutely not. This is a use case that will be marginal at best and will disappear after the initial novelty wears off. Now, what happens if nation states try to bloat the blockchain with lots of junk or even bad images like CSAM, child sexual abuse material? Well, even if they try to do this, they still can't exceed that 4 megabyte block space limit. If they try to do this, what they'll end up doing is contributing billions of dollars to the security of the Bitcoin network by paying lots of transaction fees to miners to have their non-financial transactions included in the next block. And this seems like a really unnecessary roundabout attack if you ask me. If they really need to, governments can just declare martial law. If they want to get you and put you in jail, they don't need to accuse you of having CSAM on your computer. They can just accuse you of opting out. And in the situation of martial law or a financial crisis, they can accuse you of thus contributing to the financial collapse and put you in jail just for that, or they can trump up some other charges. Public Bitcoiners like myself are obviously most at risk, so I would encourage you, don't be dumb like me, keep a low profile, don't tell people you're a Bitcoiner if you don't have to, and to the extent that you're able to, try to buy non-KYC Bitcoin and do coin joins to give yourself forward privacy. These are two topics that unfortunately I cannot talk about on YouTube for obvious reasons, so I'd refer you to my course in the description notes below. That's one of the few things that I don't talk about on the YouTube channel, but I do think is quite important. And in the future, I do hope to be able to open that up and talk about it here as well. In the meantime, if you want to check it out, you can click on the link in the description notes below. Another comment I've been seeing in the last couple days, people saying, now I'm scared to run a full node because there might be bad stuff stored on the blockchain like CSAM. Well, there's already been lots of bad or illegal stuff there, and it's been there for years. We can see here the recent news from a couple months ago that it looks like there is an encrypted 7-zip file possibly related to Julian Assange that's been buried and hidden in the Bitcoin blockchain. This will allow you to figure out how to access it. You might even be able to figure out how to open it up and see what's inside of it. Here's an article from 2018 worried about CSAM being on the blockchain, not just links to external websites in the dark web, but actual images possibly of a miner as well. A miner as in M-I-N-O-R. North Korean hackers have put transactions on the blockchain. Terrorists, drug dealers, lots of nasty people have done transactions using Bitcoin. And who really knows what other nasty things are stored in the Bitcoin blockchain? There are many sneaky ways of storing it there. So I would suggest if you don't want to see these images, if you don't want access to it, then don't download the Ord wallet, which is part of the Ordinals project, which is required to view these images. Don't visit ordinals.com, which is that website I referred to at the beginning of this lecture, of this video, but they do seem to be censoring some of the pornographic images there. I've seen blank spaces, and people have speculated that's why they've been censored, because they don't want that on their website. If you don't want to see these images, they're not readily visible. You need to go to a lot of work to dig them out and see them, and if you're like me, you will not want to do that just because you're not interested in this sort of stuff, because it's disgusting. If you're not interested in NFTs on Bitcoin, you're completely free to ignore them. Now, I personally think that NFTs are a complete waste of time, but the thing is you can't stop people from doing stuff when you have an open, permissionless protocol. If you want, you can even refuse to participate in the Taproot upgrade, as some of you have been talking about, by reverting to an earlier version of Bitcoin Core. This article from Bitcoin Magazine talks about how Bitcoin Core 21.1 was the first Bitcoin Core release to include activation logic for the Taproot upgrade, and then Core 22 was the first major release to support the upgrade. So if you wanted to, you could go back to 21 or 21.1. I'll put a link in the description notes below. You can run Bitcoin Core. You won't have access to Taproot functionality, but you'll still be able to use Bitcoin at a basic level. I think this is silly, but you're still free to do it. I won't judge you for it, even though I just did. Unfortunately, there will still be nasty things on the blockchain from 2013 and even earlier. Who knows what is in there? But I would say don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Bitcoin is not perfect. Human beings are not perfect. No one is perfect. But Bitcoin is the best thing we have, and it's much better than Ethereum or Monero or any other lesser shitcoin. I hate NFTs on Bitcoin as anyone else, but I think there's an interesting take on this, which just goes to show that Bitcoin maxis do not control the protocol. Here's a tweet from Pierre Rochard from today saying that the New York agreement proved that miners and businesses and large corporations don't control Bitcoin. They tried to push through larger blocks and they failed in the block size wars. User-activated soft forks prove that developers don't control Bitcoin because users can just do soft forks that they want to do. Ordinals and inscriptions prove that Bitcoin maxis don't control Bitcoin because people like me are very unhappy with what's happening here, but we cannot stop it even though we would like to. Bitcoin is proven decentralized. There really is no second best. So I think this is an interesting take on it. Obviously, Pierre Rochard is a fellow Bitcoin maxi and a very intelligent guy. If you found this video helpful, I just ask you to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.